Side by Side was a documentary I made with Keanu Reeves, and probably we first started discussing it in the summer and fall of 2010. We were working on a movie called Henry's Crime. Keanu was in the movie, he was the producer on it, he helped develop the script, and I was the post-production supervisor. One day Keanu says to me, hey, we should make a documentary about, where the film business is right now. So I said, of course, I'll make a documentary with you. We interviewed 140 people for Side by Side. 70 people ended up making it into the final film. Keanu did a lot of the interviews. I did a lot of the interviews as well. And we would have questions that we would prepare, and Keanu and I would kind of go over those before we went into the interview with people. When I was doing the interviews, I kind of stuck to the questions, and Keanu also did, but he was more conversational, so that the conversation could drift. One question could lead to something else that was, eventually we would cover all the questions, but it was kind of in a roundabout way, which I think was excellent, and it put a lot of the interviewees in a very relaxed attitude. You see people who are, Scorsese, James Cameron, David Fincher, and they seem really relaxed, like you're sitting in their living room with them and they're having a conversation with Keanu, because pretty much that's what was happening. A lot of the people we were interviewing are very busy. They're working directors, DPs, and to find even, a small amount of time for them to sit down and give an interview is difficult. Most people we reached out to were interested in doing the project, but it was just a matter of matching up schedules. For instance, Christopher Nolan was very difficult to get, and we knew he was an important person to have in this documentary. So he has such strong feelings about film. At first, when we reached out, he was not available. We said, we can meet with you anytime, anywhere on planet Earth. We need a half an hour. They said, he doesn't have a half an hour. Keanu actually sent him a typewritten letter telling him about the project we're doing, asking, can he please spare some time, which he did, which was very generous of him. We went to the set he was working on, went in his trailer, set our cameras up really quickly, and got a great interview. The Wachowskis hadn't given an interview, I think, in 10 years or something like that. And they were in Berlin, they were working on Cloud Atlas, and they said, sure, they love Keanu, he loves them, it's a true, friendship and respect. So we flew out there, set up the cameras in their apartment, and shot an interview. So it was a lot of, moving fast, setting up quickly, never knowing when someone was going to be available. You just have to, leave the edit room and, hey, this weekend we're going to Los Angeles, we're going to London. Our setup was very light, very low cost, and pretty easy to operate and use. We used little Panasonic HP X170s. We'd have two of those for the interview. One would be locked off on the subject. The DP, Chris Cassidy, would have handheld, and he would, shoot the subject in different angles and also turn to Keanu for the questions and things like that. So we were able to cut back and forth in editorial between those two cameras. Lighting depended on the situation. We interviewed people in all different types of rooms, interiors, exteriors, back rooms in a theater in Poland, basement in England, literally all different locations. And as I said, these people are very busy, so when they showed up or if they were available, we needed to be able to travel there quickly. We also needed to be able to set up and break down in locations very quickly. For editing, we had shot a number of interviews, but we hadn't cut anything together yet. The guy we chose was a great editor named Mike Long. He came in and started cutting things. So we didn't have a script necessarily, but we did have a kind of a rough outline. Really, for me, I wanted the documentary to be tight. I didn't want it to just be educational. I wanted it to be also engaging and entertaining. There was a lot of humor in the interviews. David Fincher telling a little funny story, or someone else swearing, or some Wally Pfister, someone being really passionate about something. Anytime there was that kind of sort of juicy human bit to it, I would try to include that, so it wasn't, again, this very dry, encyclopedic type of documentary. It had some, human feeling and emotion in it, which I thought would be pretty hard to find in a doc like this, but I think we tried to squeeze out everything we could.
Robert Downey actually came up to me and he said, I can't work like this. I never get to go to my trailer. I never get my shit together. I'm on my feet 14 hours a day. I'm shooting all the time. He actually left mason jars of urine on the set, just like over in the corner and stuff. Just he would go off and he would pee and then he'd bring it back. And it was this like form of protest.
We do have some animations and graphics in the movie. I felt for a general audience who I wanted this to appeal to, they needed to have even just a most basic understanding of what was being discussed. I think sometimes I would think of my parents, do they know what a cinematographer is? Do they know how a piece of film works? Do they know how a digital chip works? Things like that. There were certain moments where something needed to be explained. I wanted it to be brief, and I didn't want it to be too technical. And I wanted it to be simple, so people could, oh, that's what this is, that's what that means, and then they could move on and enjoy the rest of the movie. Music naturally has emotion to it, and when music has emotion to it, it makes you feel a certain way when you're watching an image.
Digital color correction began replacing traditional photochemical methods of color timing.
A lot of times, the tricky part of this was kind of taking the emotion out of the music. For the majority of the clips, we wanted something that was just sort of driving it or giving a rhythm or a beat, but nothing that was, sad or triumphant or all those things that score normally does in a movie. We wanted kind of the facts to speak for themselves. So we hired the Ryan brothers, Billy Ryan and Brendan Ryan. They would send me music, stuff they had in their library, or we would sometimes edit in a piece of music and then, oh, we want something like this or something that illustrates this same thing. There's so many different types of documentaries too. There's documentaries that follow a character, story. There's documentaries that are about just a subject or a scientific thing. I think you want to make, if it's a subject or scientific, someone that was interviewing me once said they judge it, or a critic, whether it's 3 E's, entertaining, engaging, and educational. So if you can hit those 3 things with a documentary that's, trying to inform someone of something, I think it will probably be successful. I think when you're a young documentary filmmaker, if I had advice for them, don't be afraid. If you have a good idea that you feel like it's a story that you want to tell, and you feel like you do a good job at telling it, you should go out there and do it. I mean, the technology is around today where you can do it very inexpensively. You can do it all on your own. You can shoot it, you can edit it, you can post it, you can market it. You can, if you have the time, and I think young people do have the time and they have the energy. And don't be afraid to, reach out as far as you can. If you think, who would the best person be to ask this question of? Say that to yourself and then go out and try to get that person. If you don't, you don't, but you tried. Who'd be the best person to do the music for this? Reach out to that person, And there's other like-minded young people, I'm sure, who are just dying for the opportunity to edit something, to shoot something, to help you out. The harder you work, the luckier you get, Once you get something in motion as well, once you're like, hey, this guy's got a camera, he's shooting, he's starting to interview, things start to snowball. You have a few interviews in the can, or you have some footage together, it starts to become real, and other people then notice that it's real and are attracted to it and want to be involved. So it's getting out there and doing it and not being afraid.